Welcome to an unusual meeting. This meeting is a practice contest. Because of COVID restrictions, there's not going to be a table topics contest or an evaluation contest at area level. This is an educational session as opposed to being a pure contest. The practice contest is a fair term to use for what we're going to do this morning. I'm Geoff Higgins. I'm the club's Vice President of Education. I'm encouraging all of you to jump in and be in the table topics contest. I've also asked Neil to be the contest judge for this session, and the role of a practice contest judge is not simply to fill out the ballot forms, but it's to actually give us a little briefing on how we went against the ballot forms, not individually, but as a group. What are some things that we could work on? Because generally in a contest, you don't get any of that. And that means that there isn't that educational component because you don't get insight into the thinking of the people who are doing the judging. So for those of you who are not familiar with the contest process, this first speaker is welcomed to the speaking area by the contest toastmaster and given the topic. I am the timer. So the way that the timing works is green at 1 minute, amber at 1 minute 30 seconds, and red at 2 minutes. And there's that buffer of 30 seconds once the red comes up. The speaking area for the purposes of this is your camera. You'll be introduced in the form of, you're given the topic is then repeated, and the contestant's name is also repeated. Alex Smith, commitment, Alex Smith.
One of the interesting things that people have is not being able to do the things that they'd really like to do. There was this one time when I was really wanting to get into a representative side playing Australian rules football. And being the sort of slacker that I am, I relied on my natural talents, or at least I thought I needed to rely on my natural talents. Now, not being a famed sports person, but being merely only average, I didn't make the team. However, upon receiving that defeat, I decided to commit myself just that little bit more. And it's amazing what commitment does, because commitments can focus you, it can train you, and it can also set you up for failure. So entirely complete, and no matter how much that I dedicated myself to my craft, I still wasn't good enough. So strangely enough, I went back to just my natural talent. And then, guess what? I made the team. So commitment can be a double-edged sword. Strangely and coincidentally, you can cut yourself both ways.
Megan Hudson, commitment, Megan Hudson.
Commitment's a tricky word. Some people find it easy to do and others not so much at all. I personally have been able to commit to eating chocolate most days. I've been able to commit to going to work mostly on time, but I haven't been able to commit to a regular exercise regime or remembering to feed the fish each morning. It's a bit of a tricky thing, not going to lie. And so what I find really helps is being able to find the joy in the thing that you're trying to commit to. If you can make it a pleasant activity, it's going to be a lot easier for you to be able to go and do it on the regular. Then there's also relationships as well. Now, I'm definitely not one to be talking on that, but these days it seems like relationship commitments are a little bit hit and miss. Sometimes people are able to do it for the long haul and other times not so much. So it really is a mixed bag as to what we are able to commit to and what we can't. And I really think that that shows what it is that truly interests us in the long run. Thank you, Contest Chair.
Brenda Lindstrom, commitment. Commitment, Brendan Lindstrom.
Commitment is one of my favourite topics. I love the area of commitment. I love what it does. I love the direction that it brings. I love the purpose that it brings. And I love the definition that it brings. I find that commitment steels me. It gives me a resolve. It makes me determined to pursue my goals. I love being committed. I love being committed to Toastmasters. And I love growing. So I find that commitment is a great guide for me in my growth and in my purpose definition. I find that once I've committed to something, that nothing gets in my way. I find that I get resolved, and I find that I get an empowering that drives me towards my purpose and my goal. Sometimes commitment can be a challenge, though. There are challenges that are caused by things like distractions and the laziest muscle in my body, which is my brain, because my brain sometimes doesn't want to pursue those things that I've committed to, and it finds excuses and it finds distractions, and it finds that there are things that it would much rather be doing than the things that I've committed to. So I find that there's a balance. I find that there's a time when I get committed and I get totally driven and I get focused and nothing gets in my way from achieving my goals. But I also find there's another side to me, and that side says, no, it'll be okay. You can wait a couple of days. You don't have to, achieve that thing. You can just go and lay on the couch and watch the footy and have another bowl of chips, and don't worry about the fact that, you'll feel terrible tomorrow and you wish that you hadn't done it. So all in all, I find that commitment, when it works, drives me to my goal. The challenge of the opposite is hopefully overcome more times than not.
Judith Roweth, commitment. Commitment, Judith Roweth.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Chair. Commitment, it's a huge thing and a big word to be using on a Friday morning like this. Commitment, I am committed to Toastmasters, and I'm committed to many other things in my life. But when you make that commitment, you need to know that you have the time to complete the commitment. So when you take on a pathway, you need to work out your time management skills to make that commitment work for you and for the club that you're in and for the members that are around you. So as the Vice President of Education of South Burnett, I have a commitment to my members. I'm committed to making them work through their pathways. So what I've done with that is got a big butcher's sheet piece of paper, and I've put all of their names on this list. The names are up the top. Then the jobs are down the bottom. Then the meeting dates. And I have it all worked through so that each person can complete at least one level of their path this year, and they'll probably pick up 2 next year. Hence getting the Triple Crown, which is an awesome little badge to wear on your lapel. Now, a lot of Toastmasters don't know about this commitment they make to the pathways, and they do not know about the Triple Crown. So one of my jobs, I believe, is to tell Toastmasters and our members what it is all about and how to achieve their pathways and how to work through their goals and how to achieve that Triple Crown so they are on the list when it comes to Hall of Fame night. and they get that lovely little badge that they can wear on their lapel. So I've made a commitment to Toastmasters this year, as I did last year and over the many years, to do the best I can with what I know and what I have. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
John Slay, commitment. Commitment, John Slay.
Oh, no, not commitment. What? Oh, look, commit. I remember being taught, I think as a 4-year-old, the evils of committing sins. Sister Mary Brutus used to stand up at the front of the room and warn us about life in eternal flames if we committed any of these things that I had no concept of what they were about. But I think it was sort of a ban on enjoyment. Well, fortunately, I went through the first 60 years of my life with absolutely no intent of committing anything that would have possibly been seen as enjoyment. And then I discovered I'd been misled. That really, what I'd read as commitment wasn't what the masters really had in mind. It was this concept of deciding to do something and then actually going ahead and doing it. It's about making promises and keeping them. It's about making plans and taking action to achieve those plans. And unfortunately, you don't find out how important this stuff is until you've done all of the stuff. And this is all about learning from experience. So I made a commitment then that I would write down the whole history. And here is the outcome of my commitment. My book, Learning from Experience. So grateful, Sister Mary Brutus. You gave me so much to write about.
Josh Fox, commitment. Commitment, Josh Fox.
Thank you, Toastmaster. Commitment is something that we all strive for. In today's world, everything is so busy. People are struggling with their day-to-day tasks. They're trying to find time to spend moments with their children, moments with their parents, spend time on work, spend time on recreation. And ultimately, a lot of this boils down to the level of commitment. The level of commitment that you're willing to put in with your family, the level of commitment that you're willing to put in at work. And ultimately, when people talk about balance, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about balancing all of these different commitments. And so we have this sense of juggling these commitments. And sometimes I've heard it described as trying to keep a number of balls in the air. And sometimes there's some balls that you don't want to drop. For example, family, when you drop that ball, sometimes getting those relationships back on track can be very difficult. So it's important that you identify those commitments which really need your time and attention, and also that you put other commitments in perspective. For example, your work, even though it's super important, everybody needs to pay their bills. But if you drop that one on occasion and you need to pick something up or fix something at work, often it's not the end of the world. So commitment is a very important thing to be aware of, but it's important to appreciate that not all commitments are equal. Some are of high importance and others are of lower importance.
Kelly, commitment. Commitment, Kelly.
Commitment takes courage, persistence, passion, love, dedication, communication, and a wealth of other qualities that change person to person. Commitment to me is something that relates to work, to family, to relationships, to hobbies, because not everything is straightforward and always 100% wonderful. And I find that commitment is one of those qualities that comes through and helps you see through the more difficult times or the bumps, and therefore really get to the outcome and the rewards that come with staying with something. So to me, commitment is a really important quality, and it relates to every part of my life.
Miranda Broadbent. Commitment. Commitment. Miranda Broadbent.
Thank you for that really interesting topic that you've presented. Commitment is such an interesting concept. Who gets to decide what is the right level of commitment and what is not the right level of commitment when you think about how you approach a situation? My level of commitment to something, when I say I'm committed to it, might be very different to what somebody else's is. So if I have that expectation where I think that someone is not committed to something, then is that to say that they're not? Or is it just that they're not committed to the level that I think that they are? It's a really interesting concept. Of course, commitment is something that we all hope that someone is going to make to us. We're hoping for, well, a lot of people, I suppose, are hoping that they're going to be proposed to, making sure that the person that's their person in life is pledging themselves to be with them for the rest of their life. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. So I guess if that's what we call commitment, then that is certainly something that has, I guess, a level of weight involved with it. If that is what we're thinking of is commitment, then I suppose maybe that gives us the basis for what it is. But, you know, commitment comes in various forms. It depends on what your motivation is. And so if you can find the things in life that motivate you to make you want to be there for the long haul, then I guess that's great. And if it doesn't give you that idea and that feeling that you want to be there, then maybe it's not the right thing. And so maybe that's telling you to not bother and that there's no need to stay there and be committed.
As the timers report, everyone complied with the requirements. There have been no disqualifications.
Right, I've had a look at these judging criteria. So table topics, impromptu speaking, mini speeches with an introduction, body and a conclusion is what we're looking for. And so there's lots of extras that you can add there. So right, that big 55% speech development, you can read all this, but what I was looking for was an introduction that grabbed conclusion, that grabbed the attention of the audience and held their attention. So this is pretty difficult in a speech at 6:30 in the morning because, you know, we're there sipping our coffees and reflecting on the day and on our commitments and everything else. It's all very, it's gearing up. So to get attention, what we're looking for, well, what I was looking, I'm the judge, I'm only one person. I was looking for something that grabbed attention and that brightened my day and was a bit different. So the traps here is that you can waste time. You've only got what, I don't know how many seconds it is. It's not that many, 120, 150 seconds. So to repeat the topic, everyone knows, the whole audience knows the topic. So that's a waste of time. And then getting into the frame of mind is probably the most important thing. And if you're saying, right, oh, someone's just fired a question at me, I've got to think about it. So you can demonstrate your depth of knowledge of that and experience in that field by having a big list. However, perhaps that's chewing up valuable time because it's valuable if you can include some lovely anecdotes that grab people's attention and put the effort into the delivery and the really chewy content. So that goes into the body, but then the other important part of that speech is giving people a good feeling to take home, to go off and start our day. And so that's the conclusion. And so if you're still reflecting on the topic and what you know about it and what you just did at work about commitment, well then you're losing that opportunity. So you really need to engage with the audience and think about what they would need and what they can use. And being bright and upbeat is probably what I was looking for. Now the other, what is it, lots of points, another 30 points was in the delivery. And as we already had spilled, only one contestant actually chose to stand. And there are some risks involved in that you're further away from the microphone. And so the audio is probably not as clear. I was inclined to ramp up my audio, but didn't because in fairness to everyone else. But the advantage of standing in presentation is being able to pick up the body language. So that's valuable to experiment with. I won't say it was perfect, but it was really good to see one of the competitors having a go there. The voice is on the delivery as well, and as well as body language. Now, once again, it's the whole, we're looking for something that's upbeat, not just sitting back and pontificating on what you know about it. And so it's the whole style of the voice. Hey folks, I've got a message to share with you. Here's what I think is really important, and here's some good yarns about what I've just done with commitment that you might reflect on and get those feelings working. Down the bottom end, you've got language. There's 15% there to not to squander. So the language this morning was all pretty much appropriate. But once again, you could be looking for that upbeat language that'll really make you stand out from the crowd, share something of yourself. And of course, we're always looking for a high level of correctness. I think I only picked up one R this morning. And once again, correctness is a valued thing. You're looking to the audience. What is correct for that? What would a reasonable person in that audience feel was correct? So there's a big opportunity there. But I found the session most informative, actually. It's surprising how much of people's time and attention commitment does form, and there was some really good advice there and good take-homes. In third place, we had Brendan. Please thank Brendan. And second place was Megan. Congratulations, Megan. And in first place, we had John. So congratulations, John. And but thanks very much for everyone for having the courage to get up there and compete in this this electronic format. It really is quite live, and I really enjoyed the session and encourage everyone to keep working on those mini speeches. Back to you, contest chair.
Thank you very much, Neil. That's much appreciated. It's good to have that insight. I've been to many contests and I have never had that level of insight from a judge. and your experience as a judge is really valuable to us because it does let us inside your head. You did make a caveat that this was how you saw what went on, and that's important to remember for all of us as well when we're in contests, is that each of the judges will see things in their own way based on their own experiences, both within and outside of Toastmasters. I would, having seen all of the speeches, if people wouldn't mind, I've got a couple of comments to make as well. I actually think that there's a 3/4 version of the in front of the camera. So Josh stepped right back, and that did diminish the microphone, but gave us a whole Josh. And he did take advantage of that a couple of times in having gestures that no one else could have made. Or you could have, and we would not have known what was going on because your arm would have been way off the screen. So, but I do think there's maybe a 3/4 space, like a halfway space in between. And I think each of us could probably experiment with that a little. So my thought about all of this is that it was just a privilege to get to see you all do the topic, which was the VCE English topic when I did year 12. That's how I came up with your table topic for today. So I spent a whole year on commitment, learnt to hate it, and luckily had the inspiration to think that Toastmasters could actually bring a word back into vogue for me. And you did. You did so very well. Thank you, everyone.
That's all I have for this morning. Thank you very much, everybody.
For those of you who are not familiar with the contest process, the first speaker is welcomed to the speaking area by the contest Toastmaster and given the topic. The speaking area for the purposes of this is your camera. You'll be introduced in the form of, you're given the topic is then repeated, and the contestant's name is also repeated. Now, I just need to check with those who are more experienced than me, because I've just copied this from somewhere else. I think I'm going to say whatever the topic is, then the person's name, and then the topic, and then the person's name. So I say their name twice, and I say the topic twice.